A zombie starts as an infected person and becomes something else. The body dies or gets infected, and whatever remains wants to feed. In Pontypool, language starts to behave a bit like a zombie. A word enters someone's mind, it gets stuck there, the person repeats the word, hoping to strip away its meaning. When that fails, their ability to communicate falls apart, and eventually they try to chew their way through someone's mouth. Language has taken over the speaker, and now it's looking for another person to feed on. The movie opens with a pre-recorded monologue in which Grand Mazzy plays around with words. He begins with a missing cat named Honey, moves through associations and similar sounds, and he eventually lands on Pontypool. We visually see the sound of his voice represented as a bubble that grows outward as he speaks. On his way to the station, a woman appears beside his car. She repeats the word blood before beginning to imitate Grant's words. She may be the earliest infected person that they encounter, but we don't know when she contracted the virus or the origins of it. The movie never establishes what caused the infection. At this point, neither Grant nor the viewers have any idea of what they just witnessed and heard. Hey everybody, it is I, Brandy, otherwise known as the Terrorific Lady, and welcome back to Retro Horror School, where we discuss, dissect, and analyze horror from the 1970s through the 2010s, and talk about horror like it matters, because it does. And today's video is doing a deep dive into why the virus in Pontypool, in a sense, speaks English.
Can you slow down? I can't understand what...
Still, that's
Okay,
fine.
hello?
Pontypool is described as a zombie-like movie where the virus moves through the English language. Certain words, don't know exactly what words, but certain words affect people. This is already a frightening idea because language is ordinary. We use it all the time. We use it every day. We use it without thinking what happens inside our brains for a sound to become a word and then for a word to leave our mouth. Or for that word to mean something. Pontypool puts an infection inside that process. The first sign is repetition. Director Bruce McDonald described this repetition as a possible defense mechanism. If the affected person can say the word until it loses its meaning, maybe it loses its hold or its power over them. We've all experienced a harmless version of that, I'm sure. You repeat a word enough times until you're just like, wait, what? What does it mean? What am I even saying? It sounds wrong. It just becomes this collection of noises that you keep turning over and over in your head. And you try to remember why those noises mean anything. And in Pontypool, that everyday glitch becomes fatal.
Missing. I mean, Mr. Mazzy.
Laurel Ann tries to speak, but the connection between what she means and what comes out of her mouth is severed. She knows something is wrong and she can feel herself losing the ability to express herself. She still has thoughts and she still wants to communicate, but the very thing that she wants to use to communicate, the English language, has turned against her. Before too long, she's reduced to just mere imitation. The person who walked into the station that morning is disappearing while the virus continues using her voice. Even though this is a zombie-like movie, Bruce McDonald doesn't call the infected zombies, he calls them conversationalists. Which is funny until you think about what their conversations have become. Nobody is exchanging ideas anymore. They're caught in this feedback loop, like a broken record, repeating over and over. They're repeating broken pieces of English while they're looking around for somebody to receive what they're saying. The infection is memetic in that sense. A meme in its original meaning is an idea or a piece of pop culture that relies on imitation or people sharing it to get it spread. It survives by getting people to repeat it, and once that happens, the person or the people who receive it pass the meme on to somebody else. Grant understands that kind of circulation long before anybody knows that there's a literal virus. He is a shock jock and his entire personality is built around saying things that will rage bait or irritate people. Somebody gets angry, calls another person, tells them, hey, listen to this jerk, and now Grant has another listener. His audience distributes his words for him through outrage. For Grant, the value of words is tied to what they can make an audience do. The information coming into the station is unstable. Stories about hostages begin circulating even before anyone can confirm them. There is no major breaking story on the wire, but alleged eyewitnesses are describing crowds of people who are babbling and imitating sounds. Grant, Sydney, and Laurel Ann are trying to confirm what is real while continuing to broadcast what they hear. The radio station is built to spread information, and during the outbreak, it becomes a part of the outbreak.
The sky is a person.
Because they cannot warn people about infected language without using language. Grant cannot explain what is happening without speaking. Even when he tries to save his listeners, the same broadcast that is carrying the possible cure could be unknowingly spreading the virus. That has become harder to separate from the way that information moves online now. A claim appears in a video, and the number of people repeating it starts to feel like evidence even when it may not be. Some people share these kinds of videos because they believe them. Other people share these kinds of videos because they're like, hey, I want to try and warn y'all. The claim keeps moving either way. By the time someone verifies the information, the original claim has already found thousands of new hosts. Intent doesn't necessarily protect anyone. Grant may be trying to help. The person correcting misinformation may definitely be trying to help. The system responds to circulation. It doesn't care why something is being repeated.
For greater safety, please avoid the English language. Please do not translate this message.
And the more I thought about Pontypool, there was one question that kept nagging me. Why English? Why use the English language? Why is the virus carried specifically through English? We never receive a firm scientific answer. There is a warning that comes through in French, and it tells people to not communicate with close family members and avoid terms of endearment, baby talk, and rhetorical discourse. The most chilling part is that they tell people not to use the English language and to not translate this warning.
Pour votre sécurité, merci d'éviter les contacts avec votre proche famille et évitez ce qui suit. Limitez les charmes comme le miel ou un amoureux. Parler bébé avec des enfants en bas âge. Discours rhétorique. Merci de ne traduire pas cette annonce.
And of course it gets translated. Mendez later protects himself by switching to speaking Armenian. Grant and Sydney try to converse in French.
Parlez-vous français? Other languages still work because English is the infected medium, and that choice carries weight in a Canadian horror film. English and French share a centuries-old history in Canada, and that history is shaped by exploration, changes in colonial control, and continued fights over minority language rights. French has been spoken in Ontario for approximately 400 years. Ontario also spent years restricting French language education through Regulation 17. I believe it lasted for about 15 years before that decision was finally reversed and before Francophone rights were expanded. I don't think every use of French in Pontypool should be treated as a coded historical reference. Still, putting a deadly infection inside the English language reverses the power dynamic. English is one of the most dominant and widely spoken language in the world, with its global reach tied in a way to colonization. People are expected to learn English to participate in education, business, and pop culture. English speakers can travel through much of the world and assume that the rest of the world will accommodate us. In Pontypool, that enormous reach makes English dangerous. Once the dominant language has become infected, it has access to a huge number of hosts. The language that gives its speakers access now isolates them. Other languages, in particular French, in this movie become forms of shelter and safety. English speakers are kind of left in the dark because speaking the dominant language can get you killed.
You are fucking with my head, and you
Don't you fuck with me!
This made me think about linguistic imperialism, the way that dominance is maintained through political and cultural power, often at the expense of other languages. I don't know if director Bruce McDonald or the writer of the book that this was based on, Tony Burgess, I don't know if they intended the English language infection to be read in that particular way, but the details make the interpretation difficult for me to ignore. There is something almost colonizing about the way the infection works inside a person. It enters their mind, interferes with their ability to express their original thoughts, and replaces communication with repetition. The host is still physically present, but the language has begun pushing them out. The infected repeat words until their identity begins disappearing. What started as a shared system for expressing human thought becomes a machine for making every speaker sound the same. The zombies, or conversationalists, try to chew through other people's mouths, but the language itself has already started feeding. It consumes the meaning of the infected word. It eats away at the ability for the speaker to express independent thought, then uses that person's mouth to search for somebody else. Language becomes the thing with an appetite.
Kill his kiss. Kill his kiss. Kill his kiss.
When Sydney gets stuck on the word kill, Grant tells her that kill means kiss. Then he kisses her. It almost reverses what the infected are trying to do. Instead of chewing through her mouth, Grant reaches her through it. By forcing kill to mean something else, he interrupts the infection. Grant spends most of his time using words to control how people react. Here, he uses that control to loosen a word's meaning rather than pin it down. Even that solution remains uncertain. Grant and Sydney return to the air, and that may save people or that may make the outbreak worse. Reports during the credits suggest that the infection has escaped Pontypool and is moving outwards through the news. The very thing that is used to inform people. We still don't know where the virus came from. The characters encounter something that can inhabit human thought without ever fully understanding its true nature. They find something that may work against it, and they use the very same system that may have caused the infection to spread in the first place. Language is left feeling less like a tool that people control, and more like an organism, a virus if you will, using people to continue itself. Language is how we explain danger and warn other people that, hey, danger is coming. Once language becomes the danger, we tend to still reach for it because it's one of the major tools that everybody has. If a word or idea can survive by making us repeat it, how much of what we say began with us? Thank you so much for watching my video on Pontypool. I would like to know your interpretations of Pontypool. How do you interpret the way that the English language is used in this movie? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to support the channel, I have YouTube memberships, and you can like, subscribe, share, hype up the video, give it a super thanks. All that stuff really helps out the channel. As always, thank you so much for being here. Class is dismissed for now, but I will see you next time. Bye!